this came from China, but what Apple stamps on the back is designed by Apple in California, assembled in China. I think that gets it about right. There were a team of economists at the University of California, Irvine, who took apart an earlier generation iPod, sells for $300, to see where the components came from. And what they found is, although it's assembled in China, an American company supplies the processing chips, a Korean company the memory chip, and Japanese companies the hard drive and the display screen. According to the authors, the value added to the product through assembly in China is probably a few dollars at most. The biggest winner, it's Apple. They make about $80 of profit, which is the single biggest. It's bigger than any single component that went into the iPod. And then on the other end, the distributors of the iPod get about $75 of the value. It's the markup, it's the service of it. My two teenage sons have iPod Nanos. They're the biggest winners. They get the enjoyment of it, right? Dad pays for it, they get the enjoyment. Best kind of trade ever. And so, would we be better off producing more staplers made in the USA, probably have more manufacturing jobs, or being at the top of both ends of the smiley curve in making these? By the way, this adds to the US-China trade deficit, but it makes Americans a lot richer than it makes the Chinese. There, in the palm of my hand, you have the win-win nature of our trade with China. Well, let me head to a conclusion, and then let's have some Q&A. I do have a section of the book that I think you'll especially appreciate. And this is where the concentric circle really gets big. I'm talking about the rest of the world, and some amazing things have been going on in the world in the last 25 years. Globalization's been a big part of it, and you will not hear this on the nightly news. From the early 80s up until this recession, the global poverty rate had been cut in half. Infant mortality, child labor rates have been falling. Literacy rates, life expectancy have been increasing. We're basically creating a global middle class that is better off, much more able and interested in buying American products. And by the way, more interested in things like democracy and human rights, and trade is also a great instrument for peace. And I spent several pages developing that. But I have a section on the morality of trade. And I think this is the highest ground, and we should not, as I said, cede an inch. I say, as if it were not enough to argue that free trade has lifted millions out of poverty, strengthened human rights and democracy, and spread peace, let me make one more bold claim. Free trade and globalization encourage individuals to behave in better ways. Basically, trade nurtures something that's been called the bourgeois virtues, prudence and respect for your neighbor, and this sort of thing. People just behave better. They're more tolerant when people of other races and other religions aren't just different, but they're potential business partners and customers. And so that's why you find historically nations and areas that have been open to trade, like Venice in the 1400s, the Dutch Republic in the 1600s. For their time, were the most open and tolerant of societies to Jews and other political dissenters, to people of different races. I even quote Pope John Paul II. He had an encyclical in 1991, which was generally complimentary of capitalism. It was a little late for him to endorse capitalism over socialism, but we'll take that whenever it comes. But he uses a very nice phrase, which basically describes the global economy as a sphere of activity where people work with each other, sharing in a community of work, which embraces ever-widening circles. It's a pretty nice description of trade and globalization. And it's a reason why I feel good about my job, and I hope as many people as possible read the book. Let me just end by, people ask about the title, Mad About Trade. It was suggested by one of my colleagues at Cato, David Bowes. And a lot of people in America today are mad about trade. They're mad as in angry, right? The theme of the book is Americans should be mad about trade in a different way. Mad as in crazy in love with the opportunities that trade and globalization are unfolding before our eyes. We should have the same warm, positive feelings about trade and globalization as we do about digital cameras and iPods, email and shopping online, a well-fed child going off to school, and peace on earth. Thank you very much.